Shabbat Shalom. Many years ago, as a lot of you know, I spent a year volunteering in Nepal, and we were a group of Israelis and Jews from all around the world. And we were doing social justice work and exploring Judaism's connection to social justice. And there was also just an exploration of religion, and Nepal is a Hindu and Buddhist country. And for one weekend, one of the volunteers wanted to present to everyone else his grand theory of world religions. And so for Judaism, he said, we are a religion of justice and ethics. And he said, Christianity is love, Islam is submission, and it went on and on through all the world religions. And there really is a view that one could easily find just from our Parsha this morning. Judaism is justice and ethics. But I also think it's a little bit more complex how the Torah ends up framing it and bringing it. And so our last week was the revelation of Mount Sinai. The mountain shook, the people received the 10 Commandments. 10 great laws, or as we call them, the utterances, philosophic concepts more even in some ways than individual laws, how we see them about being in relationship with the people and our family, to honor our mother and our father, to keep Shabbat, no idolatry, not harming other human beings. And then this week we get into all the nitty-gritty. That's what we were reading today, the nitty-gritty. And the French commentator Rashi says, the very first words of the parasha, Ve'ele hamishpatim asher tasim lifnehem, and these are the laws you shall put before them. Why does it say, and these are the laws? Why does the sentence begin with the word and? To tell you that just what came before, the 10 Commandments, were really important, and everything that comes afterwards, all these details. And because these are the details that teach us how to apply that justice and ethics in our lives. And it really touches all aspects of life, or at least aspects of life back then. It's a little bit different today. Oxes and sheep. But that was what was understandable 3,500 years ago. So you can have a Hebrew slave because they became enslaved to you because not having any means. But on the 7th year, you must let that slave go free. When you do businesses, you have to use fair weights. And what happens if a thief tunnels into your house and you end up killing him if it's by day versus by night? What's the difference? How do you treat your workers? What if there's a dispute among people? How do you treat that fairly? What if you gores another ox? Or what if your ox, God forbid, gores another human being? And what if your ox has a habit of goring human beings, even more so? What then happens? Who bears the responsibility in such a case? And what if your relatives do as they did in the ancient world and some parts of our world today? If one of their relatives was killed and they go after them to avenge, what if that person did it by accident? How do you stop that situation? And in a dispute, the Torah says you cannot side with the mighty, but nor can you side with the needy either. You have to be impartial. And even if you see the donkey of your enemy in a ditch, that donkey too you have to raise. And you can't oppress the stranger, and you can't oppress the widows and the orphans. And if you dig a pit and somebody, even an animal, falls into the pit, who pays? If you borrow an animal and it dies, how do you work it all out? And so we see how from these ideas through millennia we come to our ideas today. Tikkun olam, social justice. It's so repairing the world. It's so fundamental to who we are and our commitments, and not only our people. Maybe this is what that term that we hear so often, and that as Jews we don't love this term, but those Judeo-Christian values. And for us, it's not just values, it's a passion. And much of the rest of the Torah from this point on is devoted to how to take that passion and express it in all the areas of ancient life. Equity, justice, fairness, as we Jews have been at the forefront for so long. But that's not the end of the story in the Torah. This is where I want to take it to another place. Because there's an often forgotten passage at the end of all of this. Moses ends up going back up the mountain. And this time he takes a group with him, because the first time everybody stayed at the base of the mountain. He takes Aaron and the elders, and this is actually where God gives him the tablets. God doesn't give him the tablets before, but God gives him the tablets here. This is what the Torah says. And Moses and Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, and the 70 elders ascended, and they saw the God of Israel. And under his feet there was a likeness of a pavement of sapphire, like the very sky for purity. Yet he did not raise his hand, God's hand, against the leaders of the Israelites. They beheld God, and then they ate and drank. A very Jewish response to sanctity. And then that's when actually Moses goes back up the mountain and spends 40 days and 40 nights. It's not right after the Ten Commandments at this point. And so the first time they go, the people are all at the base of the mountain. Moses goes up alone and passes a message, and the people hear the Ten Commandments. And then they hear all the laws of the Parsha that we just read about being a just and equitable society. And then Moses goes back up with the elders, who are the representatives of the people. They become symbolic of the people. And so maybe this is the purpose on some level, not to forget. We have all these laws. We're creating a just and equitable society. And then we go back up the mountain. We go up the mountain to have a meal, but also to be with God and to empower that mission 1,000-fold from that encounter. And then there's been this interesting commentary through millennia of what that pavement of sapphire actually was, like the very sky for purity. Some say it was white or transparent like the heavens, you could see anything in it, or some say it was blue as the sky and the sea. But what really comes through is that it conveyed a sense of peacefulness and of expanse to the people, of connection and awe. So maybe we are the people of justice and ethics, of fairness and equity. And what that looks like today is very different than it looked 3,500 years ago, though the fundamentals are still the same. But we're working towards this goal to try and bring about that sense of peace and expanse for people, for all people, that divine presence, that connection and that awe. And we have to not forget every now and then to go back up the mountain. If not, we're only fulfilling the means and forgetting the goal, and we're losing ourselves in the midst of all of it. And we see that part of us also deeply ingrained in our people. We're the people of equity and social justice. We're also the people who seek truth. From Moses to the prophets, to Spinoza, to Rabbi Akiva, to all those who search for truth and for that sense of expansive truth in so many fields in our human history. Justice and ethics lead us to that experience and to that search, and to the experience of echad, of oneness, of monotheism, of a world of peace. Our challenge is to hold both of those, to build the world and then to remember to go back up the mountain and take it all together till we come a little bit closer to establish it in our world and our days. Shabbat Shalom.